So number one has that one should have gone pretty quick. This is not going to be one that requires 3 minutes. So we had x minus y equals 4k. This should be a quick one. This is like 3 points, dudes, on the house. How do I get x by itself? Yeah, just move the y to the other side. So your final answer on this one should have been x equals 4k plus y. And yes, of course, you can write that in the other order. So you could have y and then plus 4k. It doesn't matter. With addition, it's all good. Any questions on that one? All right. Number two is probably another quickie. We have m equals q over r, and we're trying to solve for r. So what do we do first? Right, yeah. Even if we were not solving for r, I mean, it just doesn't matter. The bottom line is on this problem, we have to go eliminate the fraction. So we're going to multiply the whole equation by r. And on the left side, that's going to give us rm or mr. It doesn't matter. And on the right side, we're just going to be left with the q. Because over here, when we multiply by r, those r's cancel each other out. And then since we're solving for r, what do? Yeah, we divide by m. Cancel those out, and we're left with our final answer. R should equal Q over M. And every once in a while, I'd say 10% of the time or so, I have people who get this backwards, and they say that R equals M over Q, which is a little weird. There. All right, on to number three. Third one, so we have, my time is way down now, so I'm going to have to not really go very slow at all. Not that I had intended to go slow on purpose, but now I really need to get a move on. Thank you, Halloween contest. What are we going to do first? Yeah, get rid of the K. So honestly, before I even look at the problem and say, what am I solving for? Because I really don't care at this point. I just know instinctively that this is what I need to do. So on the left-hand side, you should have negative 3kW minus PK equals just A. And then you look and say, oh, I'm solving for A. So I'm done. So that's a really silly problem there. Yeah, the order of your letters in a multiplication cluster like this is irrelevant. So it doesn't matter. The only thing we ask of you really is that you put the -3 first, because numbers should always go before letters. But yeah, KW, WK, it's all good. Okay. On to the fourth one, we have H equals B over X plus Y squared. And again, before I even worry about what it is I'm solving for, and I'm honestly not even going to look, just to make the point that I really don't care. I'm going to multiply this whole equation by X plus Y squared. So just like this. So on the left-hand side, now I am going to look, because I'm solving for X, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute this through. So on the right-hand side, these are going to cancel, just like that. And we're left over here with B equals. And then on this side, I'm going to distribute the H through. So I'm going to have HX plus HY squared like this. So that's me just taking that H and distributing it like that. Any questions there? All right, and the good news is that we're solving for X, and there's only one copy of X. And so now I'm going to turn around and move this HY squared back to the other side. So I'm going to leave the HX over here, and then I'm going to subtract the HY squared to the other side. And then the final step is, of course, to divide by H, right? Very good. So if we divide everything like this by H and divide this by H, then we're going to be left with X equals B minus HY squared over H. We are not going to stop teaching when the chaos comes in the room, right? I'm just going to keep going, and we're just going to press on. Everybody okay with that? Yeah. Good, because there'll be a couple of minutes where there's a bunch of blah, blah, blah. I'm just not going to go there. So, all right, so that puts us through 4 problems. All right, on to the fifth one. We have XY equals M minus R squared. And I am solving for R. So this is an interesting, I wrote this problem, and I don't know if I had it to do again, I might have changed something, but I'm going to show you something here that's going to make our lives a little bit easier. This minus sign that I'm pointing to is a problem. Do you guys get that?
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to actually take the r squared, zip it, and I'm going to move the r squared to the other side like this. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want it to go positive. So essentially what I'm telling you is I want these two terms. You see the red arrow and the purple arrow. I just basically want them to switch places. So, and again, the purpose is just because I want the r squared to go positive. So if I do that, I'm going to bring my r squared over to the left. And then on my right side, I'm going to have m minus xy. Like this. Good, Gunnar? Well, that's awesome. Good. And then after this, we're going to go ahead and just square root the whole thing because everything is all set up now. So if I square root on the left, whoop, and I square root on the right, then I'm done. And I can just say r equals the square root of m minus xy. Well, it depends. It's okay if it's like this. As long as your minus stays with your xy and your positive sign stays with your m, then it's okay. But like saying xy minus m would be very incorrect. Yeah. So we good? So either of these two things, either the green thing is great or the yellow thing is great. You can pick from those two. The next one is just a recognition problem. And what I mean by that is, are you able to recognize what it is? So this is one of those that's just a fraction equal to a fraction. So regardless, again, of what I'm trying to solve for, I'm going to multiply in this direction, and I'm going to get 4 FMs. And then when I go the other direction, that's the yellow way here, I'm just going to get KC again, or CK, doesn't matter. And now at this point, I would look and say, what am I solving for? Oh, I'm solving for F. So I'm just going to divide both sides by all of the stuff that's attached to F. In this case, that's 4M, like this. So the 4's and the M's cancel, and I'm left with my final answer, which is F equals KC divided by 4M. Everybody still good? 6 down? All right, on to the next one. So something changes here, and that is that now we have the same variable that we're trying to solve for occurring twice. So in its original state, we have xy minus 3m's equals 4x. So I don't know, you guys tell me, what do you think is a proper approach here? We're solving for x, that's a problem. It's fine. Honestly, listen, I want my x's to be on the same side. So that, listen, if you're looking for like the path of absolute least resistance, you could take this xy and just simply move it over here. The goal here is to get the x's on the same side. So I have no issue. Like I have a little issue with the negative on the 3, but that's okay. So let's take that one that I circled in red and let's move it over to the right. So we're left over here with 4x's minus xy. And then we're just left over here with negative 3m. Good. Get used to this. This will happen to you on at least 3 or 4 occasions. If you don't know this next move, there's no way to get through these particular types of problems. So what we have to do now is that F word, we have to factor. We've been calling it reverse distribution, same diff, right? So you're going to take the X copy and you're going to basically pull it out of both like this, and you're going to set it in front of a set of parentheses, and that leaves behind a 4 and it leaves behind a y. And that's the power play right there. That's where you get that variable out and isolated, and then you can divide by whatever's attached to it. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4 minus y, like this. And that all cancels out, and we're left with our final answer, which is x equals negative 3m divided by 4 minus y. Any questions on that? Okay. The next one would be, I think it would be number 8. Had I numbered the problems, this would be called number 8. So this marks the halfway point right here. We have r equals big A times negative x plus m. If I'm solving for m, what's the problem with this? It's in jail, right? It's not free to move about the cabin. So what's the best play here? I'll take two answers. Just distribute or divide by the A. So either one of those would be just fine with me. Since I heard distribute first, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take the A and multiply it through. And at least what that does is it eliminates the need for the parentheses, and no one will be in jail anymore after this. So we're going to have R equals negative AX plus AM. If we were solving for A, that would have been a stupid thing to do. But we're not solving for A, so I don't care if there's multiple copies of him. I'm solving for M, and he's now out in the open and free. So at this point, no options. There wouldn't be this isn't one of those do what you feel kind of situations. The play here is to take the negative AX and move it out of the way. So my left side now says R plus AX, and my right side says AM. Because I'm solving for M, what do I do to finish the job? Just divide by A, right? So if we divide both sides by A, like this, cancel those out, you get your final answer, which is M equals R plus AX all divided by A. If you wanted to go further on that one, we talked about this a week ago, you could, but really that's just fine. Just like that, good to go. I'm not worried about like simplifying every little detail of this because that's just fine. All right. Halfway point. On to number 9. We have M equals 3/4 of X plus Q. And we're going to solve for X. What's a good first move? Get rid of the fraction. Good. So let's multiply the whole equation by 4. And that's going to give us 4M's equals 3X's plus 4Q's. And then it's just standard practice. Getting rid of a fraction is such a power play. Like it just opens everything up. Dividing by the fraction. Yeah, you can, because I know you guys, did you use your calculator for that? Yeah, if you're comfortable just dividing by the fraction, that's fine. So in case you guys are curious, the conversation I think we're having here is, could we subtract the Q first, maybe? Of course you could, yeah. So like if you had done this step first, if you had done minus Q and minus Q, then you and our equations at this point are going to look a lot different. So you're going to have this. You're going to have M minus Q equals 3/4 of X, right? Yep. Now, the trouble with what you're going to do is if you are not careful, you're going to wind up with this. And that is not okay. There's a law in math that you're not allowed to have a fraction inside of a fraction. So that's why I might steer away from this particular approach. Okay. Because fractions are not allowed to sit inside of other fractions. Like this whole thing is a fraction, right? And then part of it is another. That's not okay. So perhaps the method on the left might be a better move for us, right? In the future. Just get rid of the fractions right away. Just boom, just get rid of them. So let's head back over to the left. We're solving for X. And so we clearly have to get the 4Q and say, you need to show yourself out. So I need 3X by itself over here. So I have 3X equals 4M's minus 4Q's. And then we're just nice and safe now to divide by 3. Okay. So if we divide both sides by 3 right here and right here, then our final answer will just pop itself right out. We get X equals 4M's minus 4Q's all divided by 3. And for the record, Tegan and Morgan, since you had expressed some interest in this method over here, you can still get there from here. What you basically do is take this fraction. I still don't encourage this method, but if you wanted to, you could pull it out. And, dividing by a fraction is multiplying by its reciprocal. So if you take that 3/4 out over to here, it actually multiplies and becomes 4/3. And then when you distribute the 4 through the top, how you get 4M minus 4Q, and then the 3's on bottom, which is the same as what I got. So all hope is not lost once you get there. You just have to pull the fraction out, flip it, and reapply it. No fractions inside of fractions. Correct. That's no bueno. Okay, good. That takes us over to what would be the 10th problem, which is 5y equals negative x cubed y plus m. And again, you're going to see this. This is a theme where there's something I left off of here, where the y is in two different places. So what's the definite shortest path to get there? Right. This whole chunk, good job, needs to go to the left side. We want our y's on the same side. So on the right side, we're going to have our 5y still just sitting there. We're going to add to it x cubed y, and that's all going to be equal to m. And again comes the power play. How do you get that y to go from having 2 of himself down to 1? Factor, the F word, factor. You might as well get used to saying that word, factor. When you pull something out like that, you're factoring. So I'm going to take the y out of here and out of here, and I'm going to place it out front and rewrite what would be left like this. And that's not it, but that's pretty much it, because at the end, we're just going to divide by the thing that's in parentheses. So your final answer should be y equals m divided by 5 plus x cubed. Like that. Good? 10 down, 6 to go. This one starts out with a square root sign on it, so we of course know we're going to have to get rid of that. So we have m cubed n minus x. That's all inside of a root, and that's equal to y. What is step 1? We have to square. Okay. Remember that to eliminate that square root sign, we apply a square. It's called an exponent of 2. It's called a square. So when I square on the left side, what happens? Good job. Good job, you guys. No math over there. Good job. Equals what? Nice job. And we're solving this problem for n. So I assess the landscape and I say, okay, I see you, n. You're right there. Got a target on you now. So what would be the next logical move? Add that x back across. So we have m cubed n equals y squared plus x. And again, that could be x plus y squared. Doesn't matter. Last step, divide by m cubed. Good. That's it. So we wind up with n equals y squared plus x all divided by m cubed. I feel good? Right. Next one is 10x equals m over big R plus g. Right. And again, I wrote this test and I don't even know, and I don't want to look. I don't care. I keep saying this. I don't care what I'm solving for. It's not going to have any effect. Actually, that's a lie. If I were solving for g, then I would just subtract the m over r and be done. So that was kind of a lie. But generally, like, I'm not going to ask you to solve for g because I already gave you that little softball back on problem 1. So if I were solving for g, I wouldn't need to kill the fraction. But honestly, I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to multiply by r. Boom, done. So what that does is it eliminates the fraction, and over on the left-hand side, I'm left with 10xr. And again, yes, that can be 10rx, it doesn't matter, equals m plus g. And what problem do we encounter? There's 2 r's. And I'm going to show you in a second, there was actually probably a more efficient way to solve this problem. So if you did something different and you're wondering, is that okay? It probably was. But let me finish this method first. So I'm going to get these r's on the same side. And 100% most efficient route is to take this one I'm circling in green and move him over here with his homie. So we want the 10xr to be left over here. We're going to subtract the gr over to there, equals m. And now how do we get that r to become from 2 to 1? It's the F word, factor, 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 factor. So we want that R and that R to come out together as a copy. So we pull the R out front and we're left with 10x's minus g. Fourth verse, same as the first. Once you factor that out, you just divide by whatever's attached to it. So I'm going to divide by 10x minus g. And I'm done. Anyone do that problem differently? Okay. I'm just going to show you this, and only if you're interested. If you like that way, that's fine. Just keep doing it that way. But going back to the very beginning, we actually could have subtracted the g across. So check this out. If I subtract the g like this, it goes a little bit against what we normally do, but honestly, it's pretty slick in this case because on the left we get 10x minus g. And then what could we do at this point? Multiply by r, right? So if you multiply both sides by r, then you never actually have to distribute the r and factor it back out because the left side over here just becomes r times 10x minus g. And if you're paying attention, you know that that's, of course, the same thing we got before, right? It's just maybe a little bit more relaxing approach to it. I don't know, because you still got to divide, and you're going to get the same thing. You pick. All right, 4 to go. We have 4r x squared minus 5g's equals m. And we are solving for x. And the good news here is that x is just in one spot. So this should be a pretty standard sort of thing. So we're going to start by adding this 5g. We're going to say 5g, you're going to need to get out of the way. So we're left with 4r x squared equals m plus 5g. Next step. Yeah, you cannot take the root at this point. And I know that might be something that some of you might have thought I want to do. Like I know I have to root away that too, but you can't until you divide the 4r, right? So we have to divide here by 4r and divide here by 4r. And then we set it up for the finishing move. And what is the finishing move? Yeah, square root, right? Good. So we get x equals the square root of. And you'll notice how I've written this. I'm very deliberately making my square root sign tall enough to show the reader that it encompasses the whole fraction. As you know from, assuming you've done all your delta math assignments, you know that that's not the same as this, right? Almost everyone has to miss that at least once on delta before we learn our lesson about that. The square root can't just be on part of it. It's like the whole side of the equation gets rooted. So yeah. That leaves 3 more. Everybody okay? For the most part. Okay. Well, the good news is you have 23 hours and like 15 minutes to ask any questions and make a good page of notes, whatever. It's a long time. So we have negative q plus 1/8 of xy is equal to m, and we're solving for y. So again, the good news is that there's just one of him. What's a great first move? You mean like fraction kill? Yeah, we should be multiplying this whole equation by 8. Avoid that thing of later on having to divide by a fraction. Let's get that out of our system. We don't want to be dividing by fractions. Let's multiply them away first. So if we multiply by 8, we get negative 8q's plus just xy. Yeah, so when the 8 multiplies, it just gets killed off by the fraction, and then the xy survive. That's, I won't say that's it, but I mean, at this point, if I'm solving for y, it's pretty much simple pimple from here. I say negative 8q, get yourself on out of here, and I'm left with xy equals. 8m's plus the newcomer over there, 8q. And I'm solving for y, so I divide by x. So we're left with y equals 8m's plus 8q's, all divided by x. And by the way, I just realized sitting here looking at this that there's another type of problem that I meant to get on here. I don't know how it slipped past me, but I'll show you after we do these last two. I'm going to add one on. It'll be like problem 17, and you'll be accountable for that as well, because he's going to find his way onto the quiz, guaranteed. All right, last row. We have m equals 1/3 times the quantity of k plus r plus n. And at this point, regardless of who I'm going to solve for, I gotta to free those beasts, free those guys from the prison. What's a great first move? Say again. You could distribute, honestly. My only issue with that is at some point the fractions are going to come a calling. So rather than take one fraction and distribute it and say, I'm going to turn you into 3 different fractions, I'd rather right now go in, be aggressive with this, and just multiply by 3. By doing that, what happens is this 3, I mean, obviously we get 3m, but over here, this yellow arrow is the important one. If you follow the yellow arrow, what happens? It cancels, leaving just k plus r plus n, which is a really nice approach. And then it doesn't matter. I've got 3 guys over there, k, r, and n. Any one of them that I ask you to solve for, you're just going to subtract away the other 2. Doesn't matter. So if we're solving for k, then I need to take away r and take away n, like that. Make it happen. So our final answer here is that k has to equal 3m's minus an r and minus an n, like that. Everybody got it? Davy Crockett, you okay there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it gets stopped at the door by that fraction, right? Yeah. And then the last one on the practice quiz is k equals mnp, all divided by 500. By the way, these last couple, you might think these look a little weird. I stole these off your district assessment that you're going to have to take really soon. So I thought these would be good prep for you to see, hint, hint, wink, wink, what's coming down the pike. So what do we have to do here? I'm assuming you meant multiply by 500. It's okay. So over here, the 500s cancel, and we're left with 500k equals mnp, and we're solving for m, so we divide by np. You divide by whatever you need to. np, np. Good. So that was all 16 problems, but I'm not done with you yet. If you aced all of those, you're gonna probably ace the quiz too. I mean, I've never bought into the whole I thought I knew what I was doing. No, that ship sailed for me like 20 years ago. Yeah. Okay, you'll just have to make it up. So the last type of problem that I just realized I didn't put on here was this. So let's do like 1 over a plus 1 over m equals, let's change it up. Let's do like 2 over k. And let's solve for m. Bless you. All right, this will be our last math problem for the day. So add this on to your practice quiz, because I'm telling you straight up, I messed up and I thought I had it covered, and I realized just now, why didn't I put one of these on there? What do we do first? You can't cross multiply because this is not a fraction equals a fraction. By multiplying by what? There it is. You'll remember this from a worksheet a long time ago, that we have to multiply by essentially a denominator that contains each of them. Because when I go through and I fraction kill, I need each hook to be successful. So like the first hook needs an A, the second hook needs an M, the third hook needs a K. And the smallest package that can make all of those happen is AMK. So when we perform the first hook right here, who cancels? leaving us with nice. And when we perform this purple hook right here, who cancels? Leaving behind. So plus AK. And when we perform the green hook all the way across here, that's a white hook. We'll just leave it white. Who cancels? Leaving behind 2 AM. I changed it on you this time and I stuck a number in there other than 1 because I thought it would be good for the soul. All right, we don't care. It's okay. So we're solving for M, and what's the problem with this? So which one does it make more sense to move, MK or 2 AM? MK, 100% makes more sense because I'd rather just move him over with his homie and then everyone is happy. So I'm going to leave the AK, and then this side is going to be 2 in the morning minus Mortal Kombat, like that. Got it? Everybody okay? And of course, now we know what we have to do. What's that F word again? We have to factor out the commonality. That M, I'm trying to say, M, you're in 2 places. I need you to go to 1, and that's how we do that. The magic of greatest common factoring. So if I pull the M out front, what does that leave in the parentheses? Nice. And then the last step. So we get our final answer, which is M equals AK divided by. Quiz tomorrow. Don't forget to make your page of notes. Remember, your practice quiz cannot be on your desk, but you can take problems off of it and put them onto your page of notes if you think that would be beneficial. All right.